2006 Hyundai Elantra. Sponsored by neighborhoods where the only businesses are gas stations with skill games. 2006 Hyundai Elantra. The official car of Hometown Harry. The glove box is stuffed with lottery tickets and Bud Light bottle caps. He never left. He's never leaving. And that's all right by Harry. Because this hometown is the devil he knows. He only knows how to exist in places that don't challenge him. Hyundai Elantra. The official car of the first NPC you meet in the bar in the first town in a JRPG. You walk up to him, press the interact button, and his dialogue box comes up. Times are tough. And you interact with him again. Times are tough. Interact with him again. Times are tough. Interact with him again. Times are tough. But if you come back wearing the Mithril Curtis, he'll give you the combination to the mayor's safe. Mid-2000s Hyundai. From the forgotten age where you could download a wholesale spank folder off Pirate Bay. In 2006, the cheaper and plainer your car was, the better the name of your car. The Turnpike Brawler. Ed Harris Party Pants. Blaze Runner. Director's Cut. If your mom drove a 2006 Hyundai Elantra, you got in trouble for waking up too loud. If your boyfriend drives a 2006 Hyundai Elantra, he hugs you like this. A Hyundai Elantra wasn't going to challenge you in the first place. And definitely not when it runs for $500. This car was bought used for $500. There's got to be a catch, right? Well, the catch is it needed work, but not as much as you think. I mean, you're expecting a lot because if a car is less expensive than a PlayStation 5, there's got to be a reason. And the reason here is that this Hyundai Elantra used to belong to an old lady who moved from Georgia to be with her family in New Jersey after her husband passed away. Depression took hold of her, and before long, she was a full-blown alcoholic. She got 3 DUIs in this car. Eventually, she couldn't really drive this anymore, but instead of selling it, it just sat at a relative's house. It withered away like an adolescent attention span. By the time the family decided to sell the car, there was no hope of getting anything approaching a decent price for it. So our friend Lance was able to buy this for $500.
It was listed on Marketplace for $500, and in the description was, has been sitting for years, doesn't know if it was some older guy, doesn't know if it runs. And I messaged the dude, and I was happened to be 30 minutes away at the time. I said, I could be there in 20 minutes. And he said, he sent me an address. I went there, and he was just sitting there. He had the hood up, and he was trying to jumpstart it. And it just wasn't starting. And I noticed the battery, and the battery was from 2021. And I know batteries during that era were very cheaply made. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, this thing probably just needs a battery. Mm-hmm. And I looked under it, and it wasn't too rusty. I said, here's $500. I said, you hold on to the title. Like, this was a nice rich neighborhood in North Jersey. I trust these people. I said, here's $500. You hold on to the title. I'm going to take the key. I'll be back tomorrow. The next day, I went to Walmart, got the cheapest battery. I went and got a gas can, filled it up with some 93 octane, dropped the battery in it, put gas in it, started right up.
Awesome.
I drove this thing home, and I said, hey, can you follow me, and can you pick me up at my house and then drive me back to your place so I can get my truck? And he's like, sure, no problem. And on the way there, he told me the whole story about this car. It was his step grandmother's car or something like that. She's originally from Georgia, and that explains it, because originally it had a sticker on the back from Cartersville Hyundai or something like that, just some dealership in Georgia. So this car spent most of his life in Georgia. Her husband passed away, and because she didn't have any family down there, like it was all just her husband's family, she moved back to New Jersey, and because he passed away, she developed a really bad drinking problem, and she got a bunch of DUIs in this car, and she lost her license. So she just dumped this thing at the family member's house.
Just left it there.
Just left it there, left the keys, and couldn't drive. The car sat for, I think it was probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So she signed the title and just signed it over. Well, it was just her. I met her there, and she's like, "Oh, I took really good care of this car, blah, blah, blah. It was really good with oil changes." I said, "That's cool." And I just took the title, gave him $500, and that was it. It was a principle of it was more of an eyesore, and they didn't care about the money. Like I said, they didn't even know that if this thing ran or not. They just said it's been parked for 2 years.
And how many DUIs did she get?
I think 3.
In this car.
Something like that. I just know whenever she drove it last, she was drunk because it still had the police department's key tag.
What do you mean a key tag? Like this car was impounded?
This car I believe was impounded. And I think when it got dumped, it was like a flatbed, like a tow truck. She got it out of impound and just dumped it at her family member's house. When a car's cheap like that, I don't like to ask a million questions.
Yeah.
I feel that's intrusive. I feel like the asking price of the car and the amount of questions you're allowed to ask should align.
Yeah.
Because if you're asking too many questions about a cheap car, that's not a good thing to do. And if you're buying a running and driving car for under $1,000, keep the questions to a minimum.
Pulls away. First gear is pretty good.
I feel like if this car was a manual, it'd be way more fun.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was lucky enough and this was like the manual GT version or the hatchback manual GT version, that'd be way cool. It just sucks that this is like a very much a base model car with the automatic, because I feel like the engine's not bad. I feel like it's got almost 140 horsepower, which is not terrible for a car like this. But I think the automatic transmission really is what holds it back.
Yeah, I felt that the 2 to 3 shift. It's like, okay, you're done. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was Lance who did the work to fix this up. Replacements like brakes, rotors, fluids, battery. And while that sounds like it would be expensive, Lance was able to get those brakes and rotors for $50 on closeout at Rock Auto, because it seems like they might have been leftover Pep Boys rotors from when Pep Boys still sold parts, before they transitioned to their current business model of overcharging for oil changes. And at the end of the day, even if the parts hadn't been on closeout, it would have been less expensive than financing a newer Elantra. And like those newer Elantras, this one doesn't really have aspirations. It knows where it falls in the social hierarchy, like a math elite on the playground. This car is bland, and that makes it the perfect encapsulation of 2006. A year that's the filler episode for linear time. You want to go to work, cruising, whatever, go ahead. Time doesn't exist in 2006. There is only gray. There is only thin panels that have a thin paint and even thinner clear coat. This 2-liter 4-cylinder is the Hyundai Beta 2 engine, designation G4GC. Now you don't have to take my word for this, but apparently these engines only have a life expectancy of 300,000 kilometers or 186,411 miles. There's already 158,000 miles on this car. I'm sure it'll hit 200,000, but that's not my point. The point is, how much is it going to cost to get it there? Part of the appeal of a cheap used car is right there in the adjective. But how much money do you really want to spend on a car that only makes 138 horsepower and 136 pound-feet of torque? So yes, $500 is an amazing buy-in for any car that runs and isn't being parted out. But you have to think long-term. Do you really want to pour money into a car like this? Or do you want to use it to make as much money as you can from your job or jobs, and the moment this thing gives you any sort of big trouble, off to the junkyard it goes for about $350 in scrap? Congratulations, you had a car for 2 years, and it only cost you $150 plus a little more for the mechanical consumables. So how's it drive for those 2 years? Well, the 2006 Hyundai Elantra is the king of understeer. A Hyundai Elantra won't come out and play. It doesn't want to. If it were a child, it wouldn't play at recess. It would just lean against the building and stare. Or it'll be that kid who just wants to stand next to the teacher at recess, where it's safe. It doesn't want anything more than a gentle left turn when the left turn arrow turns green. Try to make the Elantra cut in on a corner, and it goes straight ahead. Try to take the Valley Forge exit warmly. I'm not talking about coming in hot. I'm talking coming off 422 at 1 mile an hour over the suggested off-ramp speed. You know, I'm an Elantra. Stop it. I just want to go the speed limit. Stop turning the radio loud. I just want to play Coldplay and Nashville pop. I want sweet red wine with ice cubes in it. I want plain M&Ms. I want Chef Boyardee microwavable cups and orange juice. I want to marry a girl whose halter top straps disappear into her neck rolls like thin layers of limestone in layers of sedimentary rock. Forgive me, Father. I have sinned. What is this sin, my Elantra? I thought of a swear word. Hyundai Elantra. It's like a student film. Monochrome, made on a budget, and as boring as watching your own erection recede after utility busting so you can get 8 uninterrupted hours of sleep. So what's the benefit here? Other than having a cheap disposable car that you don't have to worry about because you don't really care about it. And any work you do to keep this thing alive is going to add to its previous non-existent value. That means it's almost guaranteed to sell more than the $500 Lance paid for it, because it doesn't really look like a car that costs $500. And yeah, it's bare bones. The 4-door sedan was the only body style offered for the 4th generation Elantra, and the base models of these cars didn't even have air conditioning. Fuel economy. From factory, this was averaging 27 city, 34 highway. You know, for a small economy car in the 2000s, you really were expecting 40, but then again, this has an automatic. And I don't know what it's making now, but Lance says it costs about $35 to fill this tank up. On the other hand, the EPA didn't call this a small car. The EPA classified the 2006 Hyundai Elantra as a midsize. I'm like, really? Hyundai Elantra. It's a co-worker car for co-worker outcomes. In the Elantra's defense, while you might not seek it out, it can still hit the spot if it just happens to be there. Sort of like a Little Caesars pizza at a party you were invited to. You just have to let go of any expectations of this being a hidden gem. If rideshare apps existed in 2006, stoners would have leased these just to drive for Lyft. Because it's inconceivable that anyone could ever lose money on something so unremarkable. It'd be like going into debt on an Airbnb you set up in Lancaster County. Even if the window looks out on nothing but cornfields, you're still going to have Manhattanites who want to pay top dollar to come look at the Amish. More and more people are seeking out affordable used cars because auto loan delinquency is higher than it's been in 3 decades. So in 2025, this car makes sense if you can find it because it's a lower financial barrier of entry than almost anything else you can find. In a lot of cases, the miles it's racked up are proven miles. It made it 158,000 miles, which is almost like a proof of concept for durability, provided you're willing to pay the cost of deferred maintenance to get it going. And a lower price tag means lower sunk costs if the whole thing goes belly up. In that way, a used Hyundai Elantra is the perfect starter car. Look, I know you're going to hear me say Toyota Camry over and over again, but if you find one of these for little Johnny Football Face Jr. and he totals this, is Dad going to really care? Even a teenager at the height of their desperation to drive era, are they going to even care? Maybe if they couldn't use it as a bus box for illicit meetups with cheerleaders or running backs, yeah, maybe then they'd care. But an Elantra has lower stakes than The Breakfast Club. Great movie, but it's not like the characters' lives really depended on anything that happens in the film. It might make their lives more meaningful for the events having happened, but I don't know that getting attention meant their river took a different path to the sea. That's a Hyundai Elantra. You'll get where you're going and you might even enjoy the journey sometimes, but it's not going to change the way you look at cars or give some sort of new insight. It's not going to make you appreciate driving more. And it's not a judgment, and that's absolutely okay. It's good even, because not every car should be remarkable. A lot of times we learn what resonates by contrast with what it doesn't. A car like this lives and dies on what you expect to get from it. And if you expect nothing, you get the world. It's sort of like the law of detachment. Once you let go of any expectation for a particular outcome or a set of outcomes, the world opens up and starts dealing out royal flushes left and right. Not that I necessarily buy into that philosophy, but if you think about it, letting go of expectations and preconceived notions about what's supposed to be and what's supposed to happen, well, that allows you to be less weighed down by those expectations. You have the freedom to just exist outside of wants and better enjoy what you already have. And if something better comes along, then I guess it was meant to be. It's the mentality that you need to have with a car like this, even if it isn't a mentality you necessarily need to have in life.
How do you find a cheap car in 2025?
You have to be a hawk on Facebook Marketplace. You have to like wake up and like look at Facebook Marketplace like it's the news. And though that's not always the case, sometimes like my $900 Lexus was, it was a client of mine when I was working at a dealership, and I asked about it because it was just sitting out front of his shop and it looked like it's been sitting for a while, and I asked about it. And it was an older guy, and it seems like a lot of older people aren't as in tune or aren't as affected with the economy as like millennials and Gen Z. So, you know,
There's the power steering.
Yep. So, you know, a lot of the younger generation is trying to get the most money out of everything they have, whereas a lot of older people can't afford to take a loss on things. So, buying a car from a younger person is kind of a red flag. Buying from an older person who has I call it the financial bandwidth to take a loss on something.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not going to hurt them. Whereas like if someone is younger is trying to sell something, they're trying to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
And
I really need the money.
Exactly.
Yeah. And especially if they say that. Of course. Is specs coming up?
It's 7 minutes.
Oh,
right.
okay.
The best thing is just put like people put in no rush to sell.
Yeah.
And you know, that's when you see that, it's like don't lowball them, or they'll just tell you to kick rocks.
Yeah.
Because there will, and I have seen people before where it's like they'll list something for sale and they'll get too many lowballers on Marketplace and they'll just throw it away. I have seen people do that where it's like they get lowballed so often and they're just taking photos of like the thing that people wanted in the garbage because they go, oh, you know, they'd much rather just see it in the garbage than have to deal with people on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, people ask me questions all the time. How do you get these deals? Like, oh, it's not fair. And I'm like,
What do you mean it's not fair?
What do you mean it's not fair?
For some people, especially in our friend group, one of the advantages that you have, Lance, is like full stats and confidence to just knock on a door and ask about a car. Like, what are they going to do? Be mean to me? Ooh. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I put that skill onto my friend Dylan, and now he's bought 2 pink Tauruses. Though, and I told him, and I'm like, hey, boss, man, like you get cheap cars doing that way, but he's now paid $4,000 for pink Tauruses, and I'm like, well,
okay.
I kind of want Dylan to be on the podcast for the Sable because I don't want to spoil that story, but let's just say Lehigh Valley moment.
Yeah, which could mean anything.
Yes.
Because the wealth disparity in the Lehigh Valley is freakish. What are you braking for?
Oh, I think it's anytime I see people who brake in a straight line. Yeah. There's either people who brake in a straight line when there's nothing in front of them. Yeah. Or people who slow down just to take a right turn going 5 miles an hour. Yeah. I think the thing I hate the most ever is when people brake before they put on their turn signal. Yeah. If they put on their turn signal and then they brake, I'm like, okay, I know why you're braking. But if you put on your brake, I'm like, why? And then your turn signal, I'm like, you know. But I think it's just weird that I paid $500 for this car and it just happens to be like one of the cleanest ones left on it's. I don't really understand that concept.
Yeah, we were talking about when we were filming how there's no clear coat peeling on this thing. And you'd think like if it was in Georgia and getting blasted by sun, that would have happened, but maybe somehow they took care of it, or because all you really have to do to maintain clear coat on a cheap car is just, what are you braking for?
Just wax it like every once and now and again. 150 years old.
It'll move. It'll try.
If this thing had a manual, it'd be way more. Like I said, I think if you were to buy one of these cars, I would get the manual GT version.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the engine has any more horsepower, but
you can wring all of it out.
Exactly.
Are we almost there?
Yeah.
Are we almost there, Dad?
Are we
Chicken time
there
yet?
yet?
I'm a chicken.
Do they have chicken nuggets?
I'm a chicken tender. I'm a chicken tender.
No, I don't like their honey mustard. It tastes weird.
Hello, you've reached the end of the video. I'm proud of you. If you come this far, I know you want to go farther. RCR's Patreon has tons of more content and all the stuff that I can't get away with on YouTube anymore. It's fun, it's bawdy, and it's extra dirty. And for $1, you get all of it. That's it. Less than the cost of a Costco hot dog. $1, you get double the content. And you know what else? If everybody who watched this video joined our Patreon, RCR would be unstoppable. There's no telling what we could do with your support. So please, go to the Patreon, join it. It's only $1. Thank you so much, and thank you for liking Regular Car Reviews.